Like right there, look at that, 2 flares just out there, black smoke just rolling. That's just a normal day in Southwest Louisiana.
Few places in America could be more impacted by the Trump administration's environmental policies than communities along the Gulf of Mexico. That's where the administration has been trying to fast-track the construction of a slew of new liquefied natural gas export terminals. So our team went to Lake Charles, a small city in southwest Louisiana that's been on the front lines of the LNG build-out, to see it for ourselves.
That flame is insane. You can just see it and you can smell it. Just a toxic dragon.
One of the first things you notice about Lake Charles is that the city is surrounded by existing petrochemical industrial facilities that emit a lot of harmful air pollution.
The black smoke that you see is particulate matter, small soot basically that causes asthma. And there are, literal houses, less than half a mile from right there.
James Hyatt, a former oil refinery worker turned environmental activist, grew up in Lake Charles, and he offered to show us around.
This is where I worked for about 10 years. What I used to say when we worked there was, we're fueling America, and we were. But it comes at a cost. I think that's the thing that's never reconciled, is it comes at a cost of people's lives.
For years, James and other local advocates have been fighting the LNG terminals that began popping up in Lake Charles after the fracking boom.
It makes absolutely no sense to approve new LNG facilities here in Southwest Louisiana when we already have as much industry as we do.
Another local organizer, Roishetta Ozan, told us there are already 14 petrochemical facilities within a mile of her home.
What sense does that make for any one community? What sense does that make for any one area where people live, where children play, where kids go to school? It's just like a death sentence.
LNG terminals are essentially a cross between a petrochemical facility and a seaport. Gas is piped to the terminal from across the region, where it is super chilled into a liquid so that it can be loaded up onto cargo ships and exported across the globe.
So in the distance, there's Cameron LNG, and then the 4 white ones that are closer, that's Lake Charles LNG. There's already 2 on this river, and they want to build 5 more right here in Southwest Louisiana.
The LNG build-out began during the Biden administration, when the global market began seeking alternatives to Russian oil after it invaded Ukraine.
We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy.
Since 2023, the U.S. has been the world's leading exporter of LNG, and about 95% of it gets shipped from 6 terminals located along the Gulf Coast.
All these LNGs are 100% for export. There's not a lick of it that's used in the United States.
But President Trump wants to take LNG to a whole nother level.
This next one, sir, is a declaration of a national energy emergency.
Upon taking office, he declared an energy emergency, in part to clear the way for more LNG development.
You know what that allows you to do? That means you can do whatever you have to do to get out of that problem.
Under that emergency, he also issued executive orders, eliminating some environmental review requirements for LNG terminals. And the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, reversed a 2020 policy and now allows LNG construction despite ongoing legal challenges. As a result of all this, at least 6 previously stalled LNG export terminals are now moving forward under the new administration. And all of this has felt like a gut punch to local advocates seeking to halt the build-out of LNG terminals in Lake Charles and elsewhere along the Gulf Coast.
We're trying to show them that our children have asthma, our children have cancer, our children have epilepsy. We're trying to show them that we can't breathe in these communities, that at night when we're sleeping, the sky is lit up orange, that the smells are horrible, but nothing that we bring before them is enough. We have been deemed a sacrifice.
Crazy. When's enough enough? The rest of us are just suffering climate catastrophe after climate catastrophe.
Lake Charles isn't just on the front lines of the LNG buildup, it's also on the front lines of the climate crisis because it's located in one of the most storm-battered regions in the nation.
In 2020, we had Hurricane Laura, then we had Hurricane Delta 6 weeks later, then we had a Winter Storm Uri in February of 2021. And so they've suffered loss after loss, and people are still living in these houses because they have no other place to go.
James took us to an abandoned housing project that was destroyed during Hurricane Laura in 2020 and still hasn't been torn down, let alone replaced.
5 years in and still looks like this. So yeah, it's heartbreaking. Like, you know, like it's not just the loss of a building, right? It's not the loss of just a place to lay your head. It's a loss of community.
Despite proponents often describing LNG as a bridge fuel or even green energy, some climate scientists have called it a carbon bomb. And if all of the proposed terminals came online, it would increase the likelihood of extreme weather events that have already devastated places like Lake Charles.
Why would we continue to build out the thing that's causing suffering when we can't even take care of our people? They make billions in profits. If they have so much money, why don't they actually pour that money into the communities where they operate?
We reached out to several companies that produce LNG along the Gulf Coast, and they declined to be interviewed. But supporters of the industry tout its economic impacts, and developers often promise jobs and local infrastructure upgrades. Opponents, however, claim that few of these things actually materialize for surrounding communities.
You can already go look at Cameron. If it was so good for the community, you know, Cameron streets would be paved with gold. There would be no complaints about anything.
We're not putting any money into Cameron Parish.
50 miles downriver from Lake Charles lies the tiny coastal community of Cameron, home to the largest export terminal in the nation.
There you see an LNG tanker coming in. That one will be going up to Hackberry, Louisiana.
There we met up with John Allaire, whose property sits directly across the river from an expanding LNG terminal, and another is slated to be built right up against his land.
So I'm surrounded by it. It'll basically destroy this estuary. So these are the estuaries that supply the seafood that Cameron Parish and Louisiana is so famous for. But that'll all be backfilled, that'll all be concrete and sheet piling and tanks. It'll change this environment forever.
John has also been documenting flaring at the existing facility, known as Calcasieu Pass, for years.
I mean, when they first started, it was constant flaring 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They had over 2,000 air permit violations. So that's what clean energy looks like from my patio here in Louisiana. I have hundreds of these photos, multiple months of flaring. I'm getting bombed with this stuff.
In 2023, the state of Louisiana issued a compliance order against the facility, but the company has fought it in court, and John says the violations have continued.
It got somewhat better. You know, they still had hundreds and hundreds of violations in 23 and 24.
These days, construction on the new facilities continues to pick up speed, despite legal challenges and questions over their long-term economic viability, with some analysts predicting an LNG glut by 2030.
Doesn't make sense what we're doing here.
But for now, with the Trump administration weakening or removing LNG regulations altogether, there seem to be few avenues for local opponents on the front lines to resist the LNG buildup.
It's sad to see that we're doing this to our own country. This is just another disaster waiting to happen.